The final evaluation happened in a moment that felt both instant and eternal. Jae-hoon stood with Hannah in the research center as the observers made their decision. The ships of living light surrounded the Earth, their geometric symbols pulsing with an intensity that seemed to connect with every human mind. The test is complete. The message came, not just in words, but in complete understanding. Humanity had done more than just solve the challenges. They had transformed completely. The long preparation, every war, every scientific breakthrough, every social movement, had been a careful training program to create something extraordinary. The observers showed humanity the truth of its existence, not as a single planet, but as part of a vast, interconnected universal system of intelligence and growth. Humans saw their entire history differently now. Every conflict had been a lesson. Every challenge a training exercise. They had been shaped, carefully and deliberately, to become something more than they were. Dr. Park watched with tears in his eyes. "We were never just humans," he said. "We were a potential waiting to be unlocked." The ships began to change. They were no longer just observers. They became a bridge, a connection to something larger than anyone had ever imagined. Around the world, people understood simultaneously. The barriers between countries disappeared. The old ways of thinking became meaningless. Humanity was no longer a collection of nations. It was a single, intelligent system. The observers revealed the true nature of the universe. It wasn't about conquering or fighting. It was about understanding, about solving problems, about growing together. Hannah realized something important. The geometric symbol that had appeared throughout their journey was more than just a sign. It was a key, a connection to a larger intelligence. Jae-hoon saw how everything connected. Their research, the hidden patterns, the global communications, it had all been preparation for this moment. The ships began to share knowledge, not just information, but complete understanding. Humans saw other worlds, other civilizations, challenges and solutions beyond anything they had imagined. Some humans would join the larger galactic community directly. Others would continue to develop on Earth. But everyone was connected now. Everyone understood. "You are ready," the observers said. The message went beyond words. It was a complete understanding of humanity's potential. The geometric symbol appeared one last time. Bright, powerful, a sign of connection and possibility. Cities around the world transformed. Old buildings became centers of learning and growth. Technology and nature found a perfect balance. Humans understood their role in a much larger system. Dr. Park looked at Jae-hoon and Hannah. "This is just the beginning," he said. The ships of living light began to change. They were no longer separate from Earth. They became a connection, a bridge to something larger. Humanity had passed the test. More than that, humanity had become something new. The rehearsal was over. The real performance was about to begin. A message appeared in every mind. Simple, clear, powerful. Welcome to the UNIVRC. Welcome home. Jae-hoon Park stared at the computer screen, his eyes burning from hours of continuous research. The office was quiet, with only the soft hum of servers and the occasional distant click of keyboards breaking the silence. Outside the window, Seoul's night lights flickered, casting long shadows across the Research Institute's open-plan workspace. Something was wrong. Not just slightly off, but fundamentally, deeply wrong. He had noticed it first 3 weeks ago, a tiny irregularity in the global communication networks. Most researchers would have dismissed it as a simple data glitch, but Jae-hoon was different. Where others saw noise, he saw patterns. Where colleagues saw random signals, he detected hidden rhythms. The anomaly was subtle. It wasn't in one specific network or communication channel. Instead, it spread across multiple systems like a complex web, connecting seemingly unrelated data points. Internet traffic, satellite communications, cellular networks, even old radio frequencies, they all contained whispers of something extraordinary. Jae-hoon reached for his coffee, grimacing at the cold, bitter liquid. He had been working since early morning, and now the night had fully settled in. His desk was a mess of printouts, sticky notes covered in scribbled calculations, and half-empty energy drink cans. "What are you hiding?" he muttered to himself, zooming into another set of data streams. The door opened, and Hannah Kim walked in. She was Jae-hoon's closest colleague, a brilliant data analyst with a keen eye for complex patterns. Her sharp gaze immediately locked onto his computer screen. "You're still here," she said. It wasn't a question. Jae-hoon nodded, not taking his eyes off the screen. "Look at this," he said, pointing to a series of graphs and overlapping signal patterns. Hannah leaned closer, her professional curiosity immediately sparked. She was wearing a simple white blouse and had her hair pulled back in a neat ponytail. Unlike Jae-hoon's chaotic workspace, she maintained a pristine and organized environment. "These signal intersections," Jae-hoon explained, "they're not random. They're too precise, too consistent to be accidental." He pulled up another set of charts, showing communication patterns from different parts of the world. The lines and data points seemed to dance with a hidden logic, connecting in ways that defied standard statistical probability. Hannah frowned. Her fingers moved swiftly across the keyboard, running additional verification algorithms. "You're right," she said after a few minutes. "These correlations, they shouldn't exist." The anomaly seemed to span decades of global communication. It wasn't just about current networks, but showed consistent patterns stretching back through technological generations. Telephone lines, early internet protocols, satellite communications, all seemed to contain fragments of the same underlying structure. "It's like," Jae-hoon paused, searching for the right words, "it's like the entire global communication system is one massive interconnected message. But the message doesn't make sense." Hannah pulled up a chair, her initial skepticism replaced by genuine intrigue. "We need more data," she said, "and we need to be careful. If this is what you think it is, someone might not want us digging too deep." The computer screen flickered. For a split second, a strange symbol appeared, so quick that Jae-hoon wasn't sure he had actually seen it. A geometric shape that seemed to pulse with an inner light, then vanished. "Did you see that?" he asked. Hannah was already reviewing the system logs. "See what?" But Jae-hoon knew what he had witnessed. Something was watching. Something was waiting. The night grew darker, and the communication networks continued their endless dance of signals and data. Somewhere, hidden in the vast web of global connections, a message was waiting to be understood. And Jae-hoon Park was determined to uncover its secret. The first 24 hours after the transmission were chaos. Then, something unexpected happened. People started to understand. It wasn't a sudden explosion of knowledge. Instead, it was like a slow sunrise of collective awareness. Everywhere, humans began to see the patterns that had always been there, but never fully recognized. In schools, teachers found themselves explaining complex global events with a clarity they had never experienced before. Students asked questions that seemed to come from a deeper understanding. Mathematical problems that once seemed impossible now looked simple. Scientific concepts clicked into place like perfectly designed puzzle pieces. Jae-hoon and Hannah watched from their research institute as the world transformed. News channels showed scenes that defied previous understanding of human behavior. In conflict zones, groups that had fought for generations suddenly sat down and talked. Not because of political pressure or international mediation, but because they could suddenly see the larger picture. The reasons for their conflicts seemed small and pointless now. Technology began to advance at an impossible speed. Engineers solved problems that had stumped experts for decades. Computer programmers wrote code that seemed to come from somewhere beyond their own minds. Medical researchers made breakthrough after breakthrough. "It's like," Hannah said, watching a live broadcast, "everyone is seeing the world differently." Dr. Park called them into a special meeting. The Research Institute had become a central hub for understanding the global transformation. Military leaders, scientists, and government officials from around the world were now in constant communication. The transmission changed something, Dr. Park explained. It's not just information. It's like a key has been turned in human consciousness. Jae-hoon showed the team their earlier research, the hidden patterns in global communications, the seemingly random connections between events. They all made sense now. Humanity had been training for something. Every war, every technological breakthrough, every social movement was part of a larger preparation. Around the world, similar realizations were happening. In Silicon Valley, tech companies abandoned competition and started sharing research. In medical research centers, scientists from different countries worked together without bureaucratic barriers. Manufacturing plants retooled to solve global challenges instead of creating profit. The geometric symbol from the original transmission continued to appear occasionally, sometimes on screens, sometimes as a subtle pattern in the background of images. It was a reminder, a signal that something was watching. Governments struggled to maintain control. Traditional power structures began to break down, not through violence or revolution, but through a collective understanding that those structures were no longer necessary. We were being prepared, Hannah said during one meeting. Prepared for what? No one had a complete answer yet, but everyone felt something was coming. Communication networks that once seemed separate now worked as one massive intelligence system. The internet transformed from a collection of websites to something more like a global brain. Information flowed differently, more efficiently, more meaningfully. Children seemed to be adapting fastest. They asked questions that made adults pause. They solved problems with an ease that seemed impossible just days before. Jae-hoon noticed something else. The communication anomalies they had first discovered were now visible everywhere. Not as hidden patterns, but as clear, interconnected networks of information and understanding. We're changing, he told Hannah. Humanity is changing. Outside, Seoul continued to move, but it was different now. People walked with a new purpose. They looked at each other differently, smiled more, understood more. The rehearsal was over. Something real was about to begin. And humanity was ready. Humanity's first true test came without warning. The observers presented a challenge that was unlike anything humans had ever experienced. It wasn't a physical fight. It wasn't a technological puzzle. It was something much more complex. Jae-hoon and Hannah stood in the research center as the challenge was revealed. The ships of living light surrounded the Earth, their geometric symbols pulsing with a soft, intense energy. You will know your true potential. The message came directly into everyone's mind. The challenge appeared in every mind simultaneously. It was a problem that seemed impossible, a scenario that tested everything humanity had learned during its long preparation. The problem involved multiple dimensions of thinking. Humans had to solve a complex global challenge that required complete cooperation. No single country could solve it alone. No single person could understand the entire problem. It involved environmental restoration, technological innovation, social harmony, and ethical decision-making. The challenge was designed to push humanity to its absolute limits. Around the world, people began to work together in ways never seen before. Scientists, artists, workers, leaders, everyone became part of a single, massive problem-solving team. The first layer of the challenge involved cleaning and restoring the planet's ecosystems. But it wasn't just about technology. It required a complete reimagining of how humans lived and worked. Researchers in Brazil connected with engineers in Japan. Factory workers in China worked with environmental scientists in Canada. People who had never spoken to each other before now shared thoughts and solutions instantly. Dr. Park watched as humanity transformed. This is what we were preparing for, he told Jae-hoon. Not just solving a problem, but solving it together. The observers watched. The geometric symbol appeared everywhere, in the sky, on screens, in people's minds. Always watching, always waiting. The challenge had multiple levels. As humans solved one part, another more complex layer would reveal itself. It tested not just intelligence, but empathy, not just technology, but understanding. Hannah noticed something strange happening. People were developing abilities they never had before. Someone who was a simple factory worker could now understand complex scientific concepts. A child could propose solutions that would have challenged the best experts just months ago. The first phase of the challenge involved cleaning the oceans, but it wasn't just about removing plastics. It was about understanding the entire ecosystem, rebuilding, restoring, creating a balance. Teams around the world worked as one. They shared thoughts, shared solutions, moved beyond old ideas of competition. A researcher in Africa would have an idea. Instantly, that idea would be understood and improved by a team in Russia. A solution developed in Australia would be adapted by scientists in the United States. The geometric symbol pulsed. The observers were watching, measuring, evaluating. Jae-hoon realized this was more than a test. This was an invitation, an opportunity to show what humanity could become. As days passed, the impossible became possible. Entire ecosystems were restored. New technologies emerged that could clean the atmosphere, restore damaged environments, create sustainable energy. But it wasn't just about technology. It was about understanding, about working together, about seeing the entire planet as one living system. The observers continued to watch. The geometric symbol remained, always present, always watching. Humanity was solving the unsolvable. The rehearsal was over. The real performance was happening now. The cosmic invitation. The world changed on a Tuesday morning that seemed completely ordinary at first. Jae-hoon was reviewing their latest research when the first signal came. It wasn't like anything they had seen before. Every screen in the research institute flickered simultaneously. Computer monitors, smartphone displays, digital billboards outside, all showed the same strange pattern. A geometric shape appeared. It looked like a complex star made of interconnected lines, pulsing with a soft blue light. Then words began to form, slowly and deliberately. Humanity. The rehearsal is complete. Hannah stood frozen beside Jae-hoon. Her coffee cup slipped from her hand and crashed to the floor, but neither of them moved. The message continued. UHAVBEEN prepared. The assessment BGNs and OO. Around them, other researchers started to notice. Phones began to ring. People looked confused and scared. Dr. Park emerged from his office, his face pale and serious. "Everyone stay calm," he announced, but his voice shook slightly. The messages weren't just in their research institute. News channels around the world started reporting similar events. In New York, digital screens in Times Square displayed the same geometric symbol. In Tokyo, subway information boards showed the mysterious message. London's electronic billboards flickered with the same strange communication. Jae-hoon's hands moved quickly across his keyboard. He was trying to capture and analyze the signal, to understand its origin. But this was different from their previous discoveries. This was direct. This was clear. Someone was talking to humanity, and they were saying the rehearsal was over. Hannah began calling international research contacts. Each conversation revealed the same thing. The message was global. No location was missed. From small rural towns to massive cities, everyone received the same transmission. By noon, governments started to respond. Emergency meetings were called. Scientists and military leaders gathered in secure rooms around the world. News channels ran continuous coverage, with experts offering various theories. Some said it was a massive cyber attack. Others suggested it was an elaborate hoax. A few proposed more extreme explanations involving aliens or secret global organizations. But Jae-hoon and Hannah knew better. The patterns they had discovered, the hidden connections in global communications, this was the culmination of something much bigger. "We've been prepared," Hannah said quietly. But prepared for what? The geometric symbol continued to pulse on screens worldwide. It seemed to be waiting, watching. Military radar systems began detecting unusual activity in Earth's orbit. Satellites reported strange energy signatures that didn't match any known technology. Something was happening, and it was bigger than anything humanity had ever experienced. By evening, world leaders made their first joint announcement. They confirmed the global transmission and called for calm. But the underlying tension was clear. Something fundamental was changing. Jae-hoon looked at the data they had collected over months of research. The communication patterns, the hidden connections, the subtle manipulations of human events, it all pointed to one conclusion. This was not a surprise. This had been planned. "We were training," he told Hannah. "The entire human civilization has been one long preparation." Outside the research institute's windows, the city of Seoul continued its normal routine. People walked on streets, rode buses, went about their daily lives. But everything had changed. Humanity was about to face its first true test, and no one knew exactly what that test would be. The geometric symbol continued to pulse, waiting, watching, judging. The rehearsal was over. The real performance was about to begin. The preparation unveiled. 2 weeks after the global transmission, the world looked completely different. Jae-hoon and Hannah were now part of a special global research team. They worked in a secure facility that used to be a military base, but now served as a center for understanding humanity's hidden history. Large screens covered the walls, showing timelines, connections, and patterns that revealed how every human event had been carefully guided. It was like watching the blueprint of human civilization being slowly unveiled. "Look at this," Hannah said, pointing to a complex chart. Every major conflict was actually a training exercise. The chart showed how wars, technological challenges, and social movements were not random events. They were carefully designed tests. Each conflict had pushed humanity to develop specific skills. Each technological breakthrough had been a problem-solving exercise. World War II wasn't just a fight between countries. It was a test of human cooperation, technological innovation, and moral decision-making. The space race wasn't about national pride. It was a challenge to see if humans could work together to solve impossible problems. Even social movements like civil rights, women's rights, and environmental awareness were part of a larger training program. They tested humanity's ability to overcome internal conflicts, to grow, to understand each other. Dr. Park walked in, carrying a folder of old documents. "We're finding evidence everywhere," he said. Every major event in human history was a carefully planned lesson. The team analyzed thousands of historical documents. They found hidden connections that had always been there, but never noticed before. A scientific discovery in one part of the world would perfectly match a social movement in another. A technological breakthrough would align with a political change. "It's like humanity was being prepared for something big," Jae-hoon said. The geometric symbol from the original transmission sometimes appeared in their research documents. It was a subtle reminder that something was watching, something had been guiding humanity's development. They discovered that even small, seemingly unimportant events had played crucial roles. A small invention in a garage, a local community project, a single person's decision. Each had contributed to humanity's overall growth. Global communication networks now worked differently. Information flowed more freely. People from different countries collaborated without traditional barriers. The old ways of thinking about nations and borders seemed outdated. "We were training," Hannah explained during a global conference. "Training for what? We don't know yet. But every challenge was a lesson." The research showed how humans had been slowly developing specific skills: problem-solving, cooperation, adaptability, empathy. Each generation had learned something new, had grown a little more capable. Military leaders were shocked to discover that their most significant conflicts had been carefully designed learning experiences. Political leaders realized their greatest challenges were actually growth opportunities. Scientists found that technological breakthroughs were not accidents. They were planned steps in human development. Each discovery had prepared humanity for the next challenge. Environmental challenges had taught humans about global cooperation. Space exploration had developed skills in teamwork and problem-solving. Medical research had improved human understanding of complex systems. We were being shaped, Jae-hoon told a group of researchers. Slowly, carefully, deliberately. The geometric symbol would sometimes appear on their screens, a reminder, a signal. Something was waiting. As the day ended, Jae-hoon and Hannah looked at the massive wall of connected information. Humanity's entire history was now a clear, interconnected story of preparation. Something was coming, and humanity was ready. The rehearsal was over. The real performance was about to begin. The final calibration. Something incredible happened when humanity realized its true potential. The world stopped fighting. Not because of a single order or a new peace treaty. It happened naturally, like a giant machine finally understanding its purpose. Jae-hoon watched from the research center as global problems began to disappear. Climate change solutions emerged overnight. Researchers from different countries worked together without any official agreements. They just knew what needed to be done. A team in Brazil developed a method to clean ocean plastics. Within days, similar teams in China, Russia, and the United States had improved the technology. They shared everything freely. No patents. No competition. Just pure problem-solving. Hannah tracked the changes. Medical breakthroughs happened faster than anyone could believe. A cure for several types of cancer was developed in weeks. Renewable energy solutions solved global power challenges in months. Transportation systems were redesigned to be completely clean and efficient. It's like, she told Jae-hoon, humanity has suddenly learned how to work as one brain. Schools changed completely. Children learned differently. They understood complex ideas that would have been impossible before. A 10-year-old could now explain quantum physics concepts that once challenged the best scientists. Dr. Park discovered something strange in their research. Every human on the planet seemed to be developing enhanced problem-solving skills. People who had never been good at math could now solve complex equations. Those who struggled with languages could suddenly understand multiple tongues. The geometric symbol continued to appear, sometimes in the background of computer screens, sometimes as a subtle pattern in the clouds. Always watching, always present. Global communication networks worked like a single intelligent system. Information moved differently, more efficiently, more meaningfully. People understood each other better. Old conflicts seemed pointless. In conflict zones, people who had fought for generations now worked together. They saw the larger picture. They understood that their previous differences were small and unimportant. Manufacturing changed. Factories that once competed now shared technology. They focused on solving global challenges instead of making profits. A car factory in Germany would share its clean energy technology with a factory in India. A computer company in the United States would help a technology center in Africa develop new solutions. Governments became less important, not because they were destroyed, but because people didn't need them in the same way. Communities solved their own problems. Global challenges were met with global cooperation. We were being prepared, Jae-hoon said during a global research meeting. Prepared for something big. The entire planet seemed to be calibrating. Like a massive computer system running a final system check. Every human was a part of something larger. Something that had been planned for a very long time. Satellites in space detected unusual energy patterns around Earth. Something was changing. Something was getting ready. Hannah noticed that people's brains were working differently. They could process information faster. They could understand complex ideas more easily. Creativity exploded. Problem-solving became a natural skill for everyone. We're not just changing, she told Jae-hoon. We're becoming something else. The geometric symbol pulsed softly in the background. A reminder, a signal. Something was watching. Something was waiting. Outside the research center, Seoul moved with a new energy. People walked with purpose. They looked at each other differently, smiled more, understood more. Humanity was no longer just a collection of countries and people. It had become something more. A single, intelligent system. Prepared. Ready. The rehearsal was over. The real performance was about to begin. The next morning, Jae-hoon arrived at the Research Institute earlier than usual. Sunlight had not yet fully risen, and the city was just beginning to wake up. He carried a thick folder of printed data and looked like he hadn't slept at all. Hana was already at her desk when he arrived. She had multiple computer screens open, each displaying different sets of complex graphs and communication network charts. Her eyes were focused, her fingers moving quickly across the keyboard. "I've been analyzing the data all night," she said without looking up. "The patterns are everywhere." Jae-hoon dropped his folder on the desk and leaned close to her screens. What he saw made his breath catch in his throat. The communication anomalies they had discovered were not just random connections. They formed a complex, almost intelligent network that seemed to weave through human history. "Look at this," Hana pointed to a series of historical documents on her screen. Old newspaper clippings, scientific reports, and government records appeared to have hidden connections. Major world events, wars, technological breakthroughs, social movements, all seemed to follow a strange underlying rhythm. A world war here connected to a scientific discovery there. A social revolution linked to a technological advancement. The connections were not obvious at first, but once you saw them, they became impossible to ignore. "It's like," Jae-hoon said slowly, "the entire human history is a carefully planned experiment." Hana nodded. But an experiment by whom? And for what purpose? They spent hours tracing these hidden connections. A breakthrough in computer technology in the 1980s seemed perfectly timed to support a social movement in another part of the world. A medical discovery appeared to align precisely with a geopolitical shift. Each connection was too perfect to be a coincidence. Their research was interrupted by Dr. Park, the head of their research institute. He was a serious man in his late 50s, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "What are you two working on?" he asked, walking closer to their workstation. Jae-hoon hesitated. Something told him they shouldn't reveal everything just yet. "Just some interesting communication network patterns," he said casually. Dr. Park looked at the screens for a moment. His expression was unreadable. "Interesting," he said simply, and then walked away. But Jae-hoon noticed something. For a brief moment, Dr. Park's eyes had flickered with something more than simple curiosity. Was it recognition, fear, or something else? By afternoon, they had compiled a massive document showing the interconnected nature of global events. It was like looking at a giant puzzle where each piece was perfectly placed, but the full picture remained a mystery. "We need more information," Hana said. "These connections are too precise to be random." Just then, Jae-hoon's computer made a strange sound. A small pop-up appeared, not from any program he recognized. It contained a single line of text. "The Rehearsal continues. Do notice stop looking." The message disappeared as quickly as it had appeared. Hana saw it too. They looked at each other, a mix of excitement and fear in their eyes. Outside, the city continued its normal routine. People walked on streets, drove cars, went to work. They had no idea that two researchers were uncovering something that could change everything they understood about human history. Jae-hoon took a deep breath. "We're going to need coffee," he said. "A lot of coffee." Hana smiled. "I'll make us some tea instead. Coffee will just make us jittery." As the afternoon light filled the research institute, Jae-hoon and Hana continued their investigation. Somewhere in the massive web of global communications, a message was waiting to be fully understood, and they were determined to find it. The sky changed first. It happened on a quiet Tuesday morning. Jae-hoon was drinking coffee when the first ships appeared. They weren't like anything humans had imagined. Not metal, not solid. They looked like living light, shifting and changing, moving in ways that broke all understanding of physics. 3 massive shapes hovered above major cities around the world. In Seoul, New York, London, Tokyo, Beijing, everywhere. They didn't look threatening. They looked curious. Hana was the first to notice the communication. It wasn't sound. It wasn't radio waves. It was something that happened directly in people's minds. A message that everyone understood at the same time. We are EVOBSRVRs. The message came. UHAVCOMPLETDVAE preparation. The research center erupted into activity. Dr. Park rushed in, his face a mix of excitement and fear. They're here, he said simply. The ships were unlike any technology humans had ever seen. They looked like they were made of light and thought. They moved without sound, without visible engines. Sometimes they seemed solid. Sometimes they looked like nothing more than a shimmer in the air. Around the world, people felt calm. There was no panic, no fear, just a strange sense of understanding. More messages came, not just words, but complete understanding. Humans saw their entire history as a single complex training program. Every war, every technological breakthrough, every social movement, all of it had been a careful test. The observers explained that they were part of a galactic community, but not a community like humans had imagined. It was a network of intelligence, of problem-solving, of growth. Earth had been a special project, a long, careful experiment to see if humanity could develop the skills needed to join this larger community. Your conflicts were lessons. The message continued. Your challenges were training. Your ability to overcome, to grow, to understand. This was the real test. Jae-hoon watched as scientists from around the world began communicating with the ships. But it wasn't like old-style communication. Information flowed directly. Thoughts were shared instantly. Complex ideas became simple. The geometric symbol that had appeared during the first transmission was now everywhere, on screens, in the sky, in people's minds. A sign, a signal. Military leaders who once prepared for war now worked on global cooperation. Scientists shared everything they knew. The old barriers between countries disappeared completely. You are ready, the observers said, ready to see the larger universe. The ships began to show humans glimpses of other worlds, not through screens or images, directly in their minds. Visions of planets, of civilizations, of challenges and solutions beyond anything humans had ever imagined. Hannah realized something important. This wasn't an invasion. This was an invitation. Dr. Park looked at Jae-hoon. Everything we've done, he said, has been leading to this moment. The ships continued to hover, watching, waiting. The geometric symbol pulsed softly in the background of every screen, every window, every mind. Humanity had been prepared, carefully, slowly, deliberately. For this moment, first contact was not about conflict. First contact was about understanding. The rehearsal was over. The real performance was about to begin.